Online News Monitoring and Sentiment Analysis Using BERT Approach. Presented by Kennedy B. Mateo from the Open University System of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Santa Mesa, Manila, Philippines. According to the Digital 2022, the Philippines report, one of the main reasons why 73.1% of Filipino internet user respondents aged 16 to 64 use the internet is to keep up with news and current events. People's ways of consuming news have altered as a result of the development of the internet, online, and mobile technology. Virtual internet versions of traditional print newspapers have mostly taken the role of those publications. In light of this, online news monitoring and analysis, which can be done through media monitoring services, are becoming increasingly popular today. While media monitoring interaction has obvious advantages, it also incurs considerable costs, depending on the level of features it offers. Relatively, the Department of the Interior and Local Government Public Affairs and Communications Service manually monitors and analyzes news from various online media channels in order to reduce and spare additional costs. Upgrading online media monitoring can enable enterprises and other institutions to gather direct and up-to-date data, which can provide valuable insights concerning an organization in various application fields. Thus, with the growth and evolution of the media landscape in today's society, it is necessary to upgrade the manual news monitoring and analysis function of the PACs, as it is crucial to anticipate and interpret the changing framing and priming nature of the media in packaging stories relative to the DILG. However, limited studies, particularly in the local context, have been done on news and media monitoring. Hence, media monitoring activities in the online environment look set to remain a priority of the research agenda for some time to come, according to some researchers. Despite extensive research being done on sentiment analysis of social media and user input, there hasn't been much done so far to automatically predict the sentiment of narrative text. Although this is a rising subject in academia today, it hasn't yet gained much traction in real-world corporate settings. These factors provide the rationale for this study to close this research-to-practice gap by employing freely available and unstructured online data in an effort to produce actionable reports and insights through the proposed system. In this paper, to complement the mandate of the DILG PACs in the formulation and implementation of plans, programs, and projects on public information and communication, public assistance, and modernization and maintenance of department-wide telecommunications systems, the researcher intends to develop an online web-based news monitoring in aid for the manual monitoring and analysis of DILG-related news online. With the growth and evolution of digital media in today's society, media monitoring services are also becoming popular. In the studies of several researchers, the authors discuss that media monitoring services, often referred to as clipping services, give a daily selection of media material that is pertinent to an organization or its clientele. Techniques can be thought of as listening solutions that support organizations in listening, interpreting, and responding to what people are saying online, and a process of gathering data pertinent to an organization from a social media platform and perform various analysis of the data for various purposes, such as academic, decision-making, and marketing strategies, among others. Several tools and technologies were used in media monitoring services as presented by researchers in their studies. However, said tools are quickly outdated due to the rapid development of the market. New functionalities, takeovers, and the appearance of new players make it difficult to solely rely on such, and the development of social media monitoring tools is fast-paced, and new software mergers and rebranding may occur. Empirically, the application of media monitoring varies in different fields and purposes. To improve daily work and increase productivity, provide situational awareness, public policy making and formulation, and early detection and prognosis supporting strategy making. Even though monitoring social media activity has many clear benefits, it also incurs considerable costs. Because of the rapid rise of newsgroups, it is now possible to examine opinions and feelings in the news domain as well. As a result, sentiment analysis, which aims to discern a speaker's or writer's ideas, attitudes, and emotions represented in a text using a computer program toward a specific issue, has become a hot topic in the field of natural language processing conducted by several researchers. There are several approaches to sentiment analysis, such as the classical machine learning approaches and deep learning approaches. Lexicon-based approaches like SentiStrength, SentiWordNet, and linguistic inquiry word count, to name a few. Machine learning approaches such as naive Bayes, multi-layer perceptron, multinomial naive Bayes, and random forest are a hybrid and deep learning approach that uses both lexicon-based and machine learning approaches are some examples. Several authors have used the classical machine learning approach in their studies. Sentiment analysis on Facebook comments, tweets related to disaster response, product reviews, and opinions on specific issues or products were done by researchers using the classical machine learning approach. Aside from the classical approach, some proponents conducted their studies using the deep learning approach, a combination of several techniques, and the BERT approach. Studies that were conducted focused on sentiment analysis of coronavirus, the performance of decision-making, comparison of algorithms, and perspective of customers and clients. Likewise, Kang et al. Further state that BERT is one of the most potent natural language processing models currently on the market, producing cutting-edge results like sentiment analysis. Because of the rapid rise of newsgroups, some studies were done to examine opinions and feelings in the news domain using sentiment analysis. Sentiment categorization techniques were applied to political news, blogs using a dataset from the BBC News, financial news headlines, and humor assessment and newly updated headlines. Despite extensive research being done on sentiment analysis of social media and user input, there hasn't been much done so far to automatically predict the sentiment of narrative text. The descriptive method was utilized to determine the manual process of the DILG packs in monitoring, analyzing, and tagging of news from various online media channels. Furthermore, developmental research is also employed as a way of developing instructional and non-instructional products and resources on an empirical foundation. Purposive sampling is used by the proponent to identify participants necessary for the conduct of the study. The identified participants were considered because of being part of and knowledgeable about the existing process. Moreover, the survey questionnaires were employed in the study to collect information and ensure that the respondents' evaluation was as precise as possible in the developed application system. The researcher conducted focus group discussions and gathered resources to identify the challenges problems encountered in the existing manual process. The proponent applied descriptive statistics to utilize all the information gathered from the respondents. The information gathered from the questionnaire was analyzed, described, and summarized using metrics such as frequency, percentage, and weighted mean. Relative to the performance criteria of the sentiment analysis, the results were assessed using a confusion matrix and common performance criteria as evaluation metrics. The confusion matrix was created with the use of manual labels provided by DILG packs. Moreover, the accuracy of the model is calculated using the confusion matrix. The researcher used the rapid application development approach as it is suited for a small system with a quick implementation, since the client can view the result in a short time and the developer can still oversee the development process. It has 4 methodical approaches to systems development using the following processes. First, requirements planning, wherein the researcher determines the application's functionalities and features through the conduct of focus group discussions and gathers resources to identify the challenges problems encountered by the end users. Second, user design. After defining the app's functionalities and features, the researcher will create the app's user experience, which includes the overall layout and how it will act. As a result, user interface is created. Based on the data collected, the researcher will develop models and prototypes that depict all system inputs, processes, and outputs. In order to create a system that is both visually appealing and easy to use, the researcher will also take programming languages into account. This encompasses several aspects of the overall design, such as the wireframe for the system and the database design. The user interface and database design, which are crucial for integrating the system's functionality, will be built as part of the initial configuration during this phase. The prototype will be created, and while it is being tested by end users, adjustments will be made as necessary until all of the requirements have been satisfied. Third, construction. This is the phase where the development of the main functionalities of the proposed system will take place. This includes the data in the database and managing the contents and learning process in using the application, as well as integrating the BERT model created using Python into the Pentaho software. Lastly, cutover. The application is now developed and will be pilot tested by the client. It is also in this phase that the application is ready for deployment. The application's quality will be assessed for acceptability. The researcher will examine the system and its contents to see if they are well organized. Furthermore, the proponent put the entire concept to the test to see if it was acceptable. The architecture presents the process flow from the target end user by obtaining DILG-related news articles from Google News, using the RSS to extract the news articles with the necessary keywords. After capturing the selected news articles, it will undergo data transformation before storing data in the data warehouse in preparation for dashboard visualization. The proponent employed the BERT model developed by Devlin et al. As a reference, which uses a bidirectional transformer. BERT model representations are jointly conditioned on both left and right contexts in all layers. Further, the system architecture shows the process of how the system will perform the sentiment analysis feature. Sentiment analysis is performed once the user entered the summary of the news content or the portion of the news mentioning the DILG and is not from the DILG press release, using the BERT model. The researcher deployed the BERT model using Python scripts, a Python executor, and a Python virtual environment. To build up the sentiment analysis feature of the system, the Jupyter notebook was used containing different libraries and dependencies needed such as PyTorch, transformers, NumPy, and pandas to implement it on the Pentaho PDI. Tokenizer will be applied to the given input news content. The tokenizer will then convert the string into a numerical sequence, which will be passed to the BERT model. The output class of the sequence classifier contains the probability of that particular class being the sentiment. To obtain the highest value result from the results, the researcher used argmax. Moreover, the result of the model with a score of 1 to 2 represents that the context of given news content or summary is negative, while context with a score of 4 to 5 represents positive and context with a score of 3 will be tagged as neutral. After the classification of the given summary of the news content, the system will show the recommended topics or keywords with positive, neutral, and negative orientations based on the result of the sentiment analysis. It will generate what are the recommended topics that need immediate attention or intervention, and what topics are to maintain and further uphold. After the conduct of focus group discussions, the proponent has identified the challenges problems encountered by the DILG packs in their existing system of monitoring and analysis of DILG-related news articles. Thus, the primary problem encountered by the end users is the tedious and manual monitoring tasks. Through the developed software, users can improve their productivity, considering that the manual searching for related news was already automated. Moreover, the system also assisted with the analysis and tagging of related news articles through the sentiment analysis feature of the system, using the BERT approach. Thus, addressing the issues of laborious and time-consuming effort in the preparation of reports to be submitted to the DILG top management through the report generation feature. As to the result of evaluation metrics used for the sentiment analysis, the model predicted 55 correct labels out of the total 60 labeled contents in the dataset, yielding a 91.67% accuracy rate. After the classification of the given summary of the news content, the system will show the recommended topics or keywords with positive and negative orientations based on the result of the sentiment analysis. This will be the intelligent component of the system that will generate the recommended topics that need immediate attention or intervention, and what topics are to maintain and further sustain. The level of usability of the online news monitoring and sentiment analysis was measured using ISO IAC 25010-2011 usability standard. All the usability indicators were rated very highly acceptable as the equivalent descriptive interpretation. According to the findings, the DILG packs managed the encountered challenges problems in their existing manual system to avoid the costs associated with online media monitoring services. Relative to this, the proponent perceived that manual tasks reduce the overall efficiency and productivity of the concerned technical staff in carrying out their day-to-day tasks and operations, since the users were forced to perform the required tasks manually in an attempt to cut and save additional costs. The developed system successfully automates the collection and gathering of related news using the RSS feed and is presented in an interactive dashboard, therefore, addressing the main issue encountered by the end user. The model employed in classifying the sentiment of the given news content using the pre-trained BERT model has yielded an accuracy rate of 91.67%. This leads to the conclusion that the sentiment analysis feature of the system is very highly satisfactory. Through the development and implementation of online news monitoring and sentiment analysis, organizations and entities can have up-to-date data and information that is fundamental to gauge the relevant and valuable media insights. Overall, the system received a grand mean rating of 4.84, which was deemed very acceptable to aid the existing system of the end users in monitoring and tagging online-related news. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.